Her hand was still on his coat when she realized the man waiting outside wasn't there to drive, he was there to kill. She leaned in and whispered, "Your driver has a gun. Don't get in the car," and the most dangerous man in the room went completely still. What he did next didn't save just his life. It started a silent war. If this story pulled you in, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss what's coming next. I've got another unforgettable story dropping tomorrow. And while you're here, jump into the comments and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing our community from all around the world. All right, let's get back into it. Anna's hand steadied as she reached for Casper Desmet's coat, the wool fabric still holding the faint chill from the February night outside. 40 minutes until her shift ended. 40 minutes she'd been replaying what she'd seen in that alley, the gun passing from gloved hand to trembling palm, the hooded figures melting into shadow. But this moment was different. The restaurant's main dining room hummed with the quiet conversation of people who never checked prices. The air thick with truffle oil and aged wine, underscored by something darker, Casper's presence, sandalwood and danger, filling the space around him like an invisible perimeter. Candlelight from the crystal sconces caught the edges of his profile, sharp and controlled, illuminating the polished floors Anna had swept just hours before. The chandelier overhead threw fragments of amber light across his shoulders, each crystal worth more than 6 months of her wages. "Everything satisfactory this evening?" Anna asked, her voice professional, practiced. Casper glanced up from buttoning his coat, his movements deliberate, unhurried. Dark hair slicked back perfectly, jaw clean-shaven, white shirt crisp beneath the black suit jacket. Not the man everyone whispered about in hushed tones. Not to look at him. Just someone finishing an unremarkable meal. But Anna had learned quickly that stillness could be more dangerous than motion. She smoothed the lapel, her fingers grazing the expensive weave, and caught sight of the black car pulling forward through the glass doors. The same luxury sedan, the same man behind the wheel she'd seen pressed against brick 30 minutes ago, a weapon forced into his grip. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. 6 hours earlier, Anna had arrived at 3 o'clock, the afternoon shift stretching ahead like every other Tuesday. Table 12 needed water. Table 7 wanted their check split 4 ways. Table 3 asked if the salmon was wild caught, and Anna smiled the same smile she always did, professional and warm, while calculating tips in the back of her mind. Rent was due Friday. Her brother needed books for spring semester. The car made that grinding noise again this morning. She moved through the dining room with practiced efficiency, her ponytail swinging as she pivoted between tables, the white apron tied neatly at her waist, catching the soft lighting. Other servers rushed. Anna glided. It was the difference between surviving a shift and mastering it. By 8:30, the evening crowd had settled into their entrees. The kitchen's rhythm steadied. The bar's noise dimmed to a sophisticated murmur. That's when Casper Desmet walked in. Anna noticed him immediately, not because he announced himself, but because the room shifted. Conversations didn't stop, but they adjusted. The hostess straightened her posture. The sommelier appeared without being summoned. Even the kitchen manager glanced through the pass-through window, nodding once before returning to his station. Casper moved through the restaurant like water, finding its level, inevitable and undisturbed. Dark suit, no tie, coat draped over one arm. 36, maybe 37, with the kind of face that revealed nothing, and the kind of walk that suggested he'd forgotten what hesitation felt like. He chose a corner table, ordered without opening the menu, ate alone. Anna wasn't assigned to his section, but she watched him the way she watched everything, cataloging, measuring, understanding. In 3 years of waiting tables, she'd learned to read people faster than she read specials. Casper Desmet didn't fidget, didn't check his phone, didn't scan the room for validation. He simply was. An hour later, the trash bin in the kitchen overflowed. "Anna, can you grab that?" Miguel called from the dish pit, elbow deep in suds. She pulled the heavy bag from its container, tied it off, and pushed through the back door into the alley. Cold air hit her face, sharp and clean after the restaurant's warmth. She turned left toward the dumpster, her shoes scuffing against wet pavement. That's when she heard them. Voices. Low. Urgent. Wrong. Anna froze, the trash bag still in her hand, and pressed herself against the brick wall. 20 feet away, 3 figures in dark hoodies surrounded a 4th man. Even in the dim light from the single overhead bulb, she could see his terror. "Now," one of the hooded figures said, voice flat and final. No delays, no excuses. Something metal gleamed between them. A gun, changing hands. I can't, the frightened man started. You will, tonight, or your family learns what happens when debts go unpaid. The man's hands shook as he accepted the weapon, shoving it inside his jacket with the mechanical movements of someone whose choices had been stripped away. Anna's breath caught in her throat. She should move, should leave, should pretend she'd seen nothing. Instead, she memorized faces, heights, the way the lead figure stood with his weight on his left leg, the watch on the frightened man's wrist expensive, incongruous with his fear. The target leaves at 10, the hooded figure continued. You drive, you finish this. Understood? The frightened man nodded, defeated. The figures dispersed into shadow, leaving him alone with his trembling hands and his impossible task. Anna waited until the alley emptied, then walked to the dumpster on legs that felt disconnected from her body. She dropped the trash bag inside, the sound echoing too loud in the sudden silence. When she returned to the kitchen, Miguel asked if she was okay. Fine, Anna lied. Just cold. But her mind raced, piecing together fragments. The target leaves at 10. It was 9:45. Someone in this restaurant was going to die tonight, and the weapon was already in motion. She pushed through the swinging doors into the dining room, scanning tables with new urgency. Who was important enough to kill? Who was dangerous enough to warrant 3 armed men in an alley? Then she saw the black car pulling forward through the glass entrance. Luxury sedan, tinted windows, and behind the wheel, the frightened man from the alley. Anna's stomach dropped. She turned, following the trajectory of service, and found him, Casper Desmet, standing now, sliding his arms into his long black coat, preparing to leave, alone, unguarded, about to walk directly into an assassination dressed as a simple car ride home. No one else saw it. No one else could see it. Only Anna knew. She had maybe 30 seconds before he reached the door. 30 seconds to decide between silence and survival, his and possibly her own. Anna moved. She crossed the dining room with purpose, not urgency, and reached him just as he adjusted his collar. His eyes met hers, cool and assessing, a question forming before she gave him time to ask it. Allow me, Anna said quietly, reaching for his coat. Her fingers smoothed the fabric across his shoulders, professional and precise. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper only he could hear. Your driver has a gun. Don't get in the car. Casper Desmet froze. Then, slowly, his hand stopped moving toward the door. Casper didn't turn his head, didn't react. His hand simply paused at his side, fingertips barely brushing the interior pocket of his coat, where Anna suspected he kept something more than a wallet. Repeat that, he said, his voice barely above a murmur, eyes still fixed somewhere past her shoulder toward the entrance. Anna's heart hammered against her ribs, but her hands remained steady, still adjusting the collar as if this were nothing more than exceptional service. Your driver, the black sedan outside, he has a gun. Someone forced him to take it. 30 minutes ago, in the alley. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then Casper's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and he reached up, covering her hand with his own not roughly, but with enough pressure to still her movements. To anyone watching, it looked like a gentleman steadying an overzealous server. To Anna, it felt like being held in place by something immovable. You saw this? His eyes finally met hers. They were darker than she'd expected. Colder. I heard it. Saw them. 3 men, hooded. They told him to finish a job tonight or his family would pay. Anna's voice remained level, professional, as if discussing wine pairings. He didn't want to do it, but he took the gun anyway. Casper released her hand and took a small step backward, his expression shifting from assessment to calculation. He glanced toward the entrance where the sedan idled, exhaust curling in the February air. The driver sat motionless behind the wheel, waiting. Step back, Casper said quietly. Go to the kitchen. Stay there. Anna didn't move. He's terrified. Whoever's making him do this. I said go. Casper's tone didn't rise, but something in it made her spine straighten. Not cruelty. Command. The kind of voice that expected obedience because it had never been denied. Anna took 2 steps backward, then stopped at the edge of the dining room. She couldn't leave. Not now. Not when she'd already crossed the line between witness and participant. Casper pulled his phone from his pocket, typed something with his thumb, then slipped it away. He didn't call anyone, didn't raise an alarm, just sent a message and waited. 10 seconds later, 2 men in dark suits materialized from opposite ends of the restaurant. Anna hadn't seen them before, hadn't even registered their presence, but now they moved with purpose, flanking the entrance without blocking it. One spoke into his wrist. The other's eyes never left the sedan outside. Casper buttoned his coat slowly, deliberately, as if he had all the time in the world. Then he walked toward the entrance with the same unhurried stride he'd used entering. No fear, no hesitation, just control. The hostess reached for the door handle. "Leave it," Casper said. She froze, hand suspended midair, then stepped aside. Casper stopped 3 feet from the glass, close enough to see the driver's face clearly in the glow of the restaurant's exterior lights. The driver stared straight ahead, hands gripping the steering wheel, knuckles white even from this distance. One of Casper's men approached, leaned close, murmured something Anna couldn't hear. Casper nodded once. The man walked outside, circling the sedan casually, as if admiring the vehicle. When he reached the driver's side, he tapped on the window. The driver flinched, then slowly lowered the glass. Whatever conversation happened next lasted less than 20 seconds. Then the driver's door opened, and the man emerged on unsteady legs, hands visible, palms empty. Casper's security guided him away from the car, around the side of the building, out of sight of the remaining diners. No one inside the restaurant seemed to notice. Conversations continued. Wine flowed. Desserts arrived at table 6. Anna's breath came shallow and fast. She'd expected confrontation, violence, something that matched the danger she'd witnessed in the alley. Instead, she'd watched a problem dissolve into shadow without a single raised voice. Casper turned from the entrance and found her still standing there, disobeying his order to leave. His expression remained unreadable, but he crossed the dining room toward her with that same inevitable stride. "Kitchen," he said again, quieter this time. "Now." Anna's legs finally obeyed. She pushed through the swinging doors into the bright chaos of the kitchen, where Miguel scraped plates and the sous chef called out orders, and everything felt blessedly normal, except nothing was normal anymore. She moved to the far corner near the walk-in cooler, pressed her back against the stainless steel counter, and tried to steady her breathing. Her hands trembled now, the adrenaline finally catching up to her composure. What had she done? The door swung open. Casper entered, scanning the kitchen with the same calm assessment he'd used in the dining room. Staff glanced up, then quickly returned to their tasks. No one questioned him. No one stopped him. He approached Anna, stopping just close enough that they could speak without being overheard above the kitchen noise. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 3 years. "Ever seen anything like that before?" "No." "Ever going to see anything like that again?" His eyes held hers, searching for something: fear, perhaps, or duplicity. Anna wasn't sure which. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "Will I?" Something flickered across Casper's face. Not quite a smile, but not hostility either. Recognition, maybe. Of what? Anna couldn't say. "The driver," Casper said, "is being questioned right now. If what you told me is true." "It is." "Then you just prevented something that would have been very difficult to undo." He paused, studying her. "Why did you tell me?" Anna blinked. "Because someone was about to kill you. You don't know me, don't know what I do, don't know if I deserve killing." "Doesn't matter." The words came out firmer than she intended. "I'm not going to watch someone die when I can stop it." Casper's expression shifted again, that flicker returning, staying longer this time. He reached into his coat and withdrew a business card, plain, cream-colored, with only a phone number embossed in black. "Keep this," he said, pressing it into her palm. "If anyone approaches you, if anything feels wrong, if you remember any detail you didn't tell me, you call that number." Anna stared at the card. "I don't want trouble." "Too late." Casper's voice softened, just barely. "You're already in it. The question is whether you're in it alone or not." He turned toward the door, then paused, glancing back over his shoulder. "Thank you," he said, "for the warning." Then he was gone, leaving Anna standing in the fluorescent brightness of the kitchen, holding a phone number that felt heavier than it should, wondering what exactly she'd set in motion. The driver's name was Thomas Crane. Anna wouldn't learn this until later, but in the moment Casper's men escorted him into the private dining room behind the restaurant's wine cellar. He was just a terrified man who'd made the mistake of owing money to the wrong people. Casper stood across from him, coat removed now, sleeves rolled to his elbows. The room was windowless, designed for intimate business dinners that required absolute discretion, Tonight it served a different purpose. Thomas sat in a leather chair, hands trembling on the armrests. He hadn't been restrained, hadn't been touched, but the two men flanking the door made it clear that leaving wasn't an option. "Tell me about the gun," Casper said, his voice calm, almost conversational. Thomas swallowed hard. "I don't. The 9mm currently sitting in my associate's hand, the one you had in your jacket 15 minutes ago. That gun." Casper pulled out a chair and sat, leaning back with the ease of someone conducting an exit interview. "Start with who gave it to you." Silence stretched between them. Thomas's eyes darted to the door, then back to Casper, then to his own shaking hands. "My family," Thomas finally whispered. "They said my family." "Names," Casper interrupted. "I need names, Thomas, or this conversation becomes significantly less pleasant." Thomas's breath came in short, ragged bursts. "I don't know names. I swear. They came to my apartment 3 weeks ago. Said I owed $60,000 for some investment that went bad. Said the interest was compounding daily. I tried to explain I didn't even make that investment. My brother did. But he's gone, disappeared, left me with focus," Casper said quietly. "Tonight. The alley. What did they tell you?" Thomas closed his eyes. "They said there was a way to clear the debt. One job, drive you home like normal. But when we got to a red light on Ashford, I was supposed to." He couldn't finish the sentence. "Shoot me." Thomas nodded miserably. "I didn't want to. I've never hurt anyone. I'm a driver. That's all I am. But they showed me pictures of my daughter. 8 years old. They knew where she goes to school, what time she gets picked up, what her favorite." His voice cracked. "What was I supposed to do?" Casper stood and walked to the small bar in the corner, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. He handed one to Thomas, who stared at it like it might be poisoned. "Drink," Casper said. "It'll steady your hands." Thomas obeyed, gasping as the liquid burned down his throat. Casper returned to his seat, swirling his own glass thoughtfully. "These men. Describe them." "Hooded, dark clothing. The one who did most of the talking had an accent. Eastern European, maybe. Russian. He wore a gold watch, thick chain. The other 2 just stood there. Backup, I guess." "The location where you were supposed to do this. Ashford. That's not my usual route home." Thomas nodded. "They told me to suggest it. Say there was construction on the main road. You wouldn't have questioned it." Casper's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "And after? What were you supposed to do after?" "They'd have a car waiting. I was supposed to leave the scene, get in their vehicle, and they'd take care of the rest. Clean up. My family would be safe. Debt cleared." Thomas laughed bitterly. "I actually believed them. For about 30 seconds, I thought maybe I could do it, and everything would be okay." "It wouldn't have been," Casper said flatly. "They would have killed you within the hour. Can't leave witnesses who know the plan." The color drained from Thomas's face. "I know that now." Casper leaned forward, elbows on his knees, studying the driver with the intensity of someone reading fine print. "You've worked for me for how long?" 11 months. "Ever had a problem? Ever felt disrespected? Underpaid?" "No, never. You've been, fair. More than fair. Then why not come to me 3 weeks ago when they first approached you?" Thomas's eyes filled with tears. "Because I was ashamed. Because I thought I could handle it myself. Because I didn't want you to know that my brother screwed up so badly that his mess became mine." He wiped his face roughly. "And because I was scared. Not of you, of them." Casper set his glass down with a soft click. "Do you know who I am, Thomas? What I do? I know enough. Then you understand that what happened tonight, what almost happened, isn't just an attempt on my life. It's a declaration. Someone wanted me dead badly enough to leverage your family. To put a weapon in the hands of a man who's never fired one. That tells me they're desperate, sloppy, or arrogant enough to think it would work." Thomas nodded slowly, not quite understanding where this was going. "It also tells me," Casper continued, "that they're watching my operation closely enough to know my drivers, my routines, my vulnerabilities." He stood, pacing to the far wall. "Which means there's a leak, someone feeding them information, someone close." "I swear it's not me," Thomas said quickly. "I never told anyone anything about—" "I believe you." Casper turned back. "A man who's forced to kill doesn't have the stomach for espionage. You're a pawn, Thomas, not a player." Relief flooded Thomas's face. followed immediately by confusion. So what happens now? Casper returned to his seat. Now you tell my associates everything. Every detail you remember. Physical descriptions. The apartment building where they found you. The car they drove. The exact wording of their threats. Everything. And then? Then you disappear. Thomas's relief curdled into fresh fear. Disappear? Not like that, Casper said, almost gently. I mean you leave. Tonight. Your daughter, your wife, they're already being moved to a safe location as we speak. You'll join them. New city, new name if you want it. Enough money to start over cleanly. Why? The word came out barely audible. Why would you do that? Casper finished his whiskey. Because you didn't pull the trigger. Because when a waitress gave me a warning, it meant you'd shown enough hesitation that someone noticed. And because I don't punish desperation, I punish betrayal. His eyes hardened. You were desperate. The people who put you in that position, they betrayed me. He stood, signaling the conversation was over. You'll never work for me again, Thomas. You'll never see this city again. And if you ever breathe a word of tonight to anyone, the protection I'm offering evaporates. Understood? Thomas nodded, tears streaming freely now. Thank you. I don't thank you. Casper walked to the door, then paused. Don't thank me. Thank the woman who noticed what I didn't. Anna's apartment was smaller than Casper expected. Not cramped, she kept it tidy, organized, but the entire living space couldn't have been more than 600 square feet. A kitchenette with barely enough counter space for a cutting board. A worn couch facing a television that looked 10 years old. Books stacked on a shelf made from cinder blocks and plywood. Through the open bedroom door, he could see a neatly made bed and a single nightstand. This was what honest work bought you in the city. This was what 3 years of serving people who spent more on wine than she made in a week had earned her. Casper stood near the window, watching the street below while Anna sat on the edge of her couch, still wearing her work clothes, the white apron folded carefully beside her. One of his men waited in the hallway outside. Another sat in a car across the street. She'd been escorted home an hour ago with the gentle insistence that made refusal impossible. You didn't have to come here, Anna said finally, breaking the silence. Your people already told me to keep quiet. They told you to stay safe, Casper corrected, turning from the window. Different thing. Is it? She looked up at him, exhaustion pulling at the corners of her eyes. Because it feels the same from where I'm sitting. Casper moved to the chair across from her, the only other seat in the room, and lowered himself into it. Even sitting, he seemed to fill the small space with his presence. Tell me about the alley. Everything. Not the summary you gave me before. Every detail. Anna drew a slow breath. I took the trash out around 9:15, maybe 9:20. The bin was full, and Miguel asked me to handle it because he was drowning in dishes. You went alone? Always do. It's not a long walk. Dumpsters maybe 30 feet from the back door. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I heard them before I saw them. Voices, angry, but controlled, like people trying not to be heard. How many? 4. 3 in dark hoodies, faces mostly hidden. One man without a hood, your driver. He looked. She paused, searching for the word. Defeated, like someone who'd already lost. Did they see you? No. I stayed against the wall. Shadow from the overhang kept me hidden. Anna's hands twisted in her lap. The one doing the talking, he had an accent. Russian, maybe. Eastern European. He was taller than the other two. Stood differently, like he was used to giving orders. What did he say? Anna closed her eyes, pulling the memory into focus. He said, now. No delays, no excuses. Then he handed Thomas. Is that his name? Casper nodded. He handed Thomas the gun. Thomas tried to refuse, said I can't. But the man told him he would, or his family would learn what happens when debts go unpaid. She opened her eyes. That's when I knew it wasn't a choice. It was a threat. Casper leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Did they mention me by name? No. Just said the target leaves at 10, and that Thomas would drive and finish it. They gave him an address. Ashford something. Ashford and 5th. That's it. Anna met his gaze. Why there? Industrial area. Minimal cameras. Easy to dispose of evidence. Casper's voice remained even, clinical. Good choice for an ambush. Bad luck they picked a driver with a conscience. He didn't want to do it. Doesn't matter. Intent without action is just guilt. Action is what kills people. Casper sat back. But you're right. He was coerced. That's why he's alive. Anna's jaw tightened. You keep saying that like it's mercy. Kicking someone out of their life, forcing them to disappear, is better than the alternative, Casper interrupted, his tone hardening. Which is what the people who set this up would have done to him, and to his family. I'm not the villain in this story, Anna. I didn't say you were. You were thinking it. She held his gaze for a long moment, then shook her head. No. I was thinking you're someone who lives in a world I don't understand, where guns and threats and forced disappearances are just Tuesday. They are, Casper said simply. For me, but they shouldn't be for you, which is why I'm here. Anna straightened. I told you I don't want trouble. And I told you it's too late. Casper pulled his phone from his pocket, scrolled through something, then turned the screen toward her. This is the car the men in the alley were driving, partial plate, caught on a camera 2 blocks from the restaurant. Anna stared at the image. Black SUV, tinted windows. Unremarkable except for the dent in the rear bumper. My people are running it now, Casper continued. Within 48 hours, we'll know who owns it, where it's been, who was inside. He pocketed the phone. When we find them, things will happen quickly, quietly, but they will happen. Why are you telling me this? Because you're part of this now, whether you want to be or not. Casper's expression softened slightly, though his eyes remained sharp. You saw them. You heard them. If they find out someone warned me, if they start asking questions, your name will come up. Thomas won't give it, but there are other ways to trace a leak. Anna's stomach dropped. So what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to let me protect you. Casper gestured toward the window. The man outside your door? He stays. The one in the car? He stays. You go to work, you come home, you live your life, but you don't do it alone. Not until this is finished. For how long? As long as it takes. Anna stood abruptly, pacing to the kitchenette. She gripped the edge of the counter, staring at nothing. I just wanted to help. I saw something wrong, and I tried to fix it. That's all. I know. Casper rose, moving toward her but stopping several feet away, giving her space. And because you did, you saved my life. That means something to me. It means I don't let you face the consequences alone. She turned, searching his face. Why do you care? You don't even know me. You're right, I don't. Casper's voice dropped, losing its edge. But you knew enough about me to risk your job. Maybe your life, warning me about a threat. You didn't ask for anything, didn't hesitate. You just acted. He paused. People like that are rare, worth protecting. Anna held his gaze, something shifting in her chest, not trust, not yet, but maybe the beginning of understanding. Okay, she said quietly. How does this work? Casper's shoulders relaxed fractionally. It works with you staying alert, noticing things, and calling me if anything feels wrong. He handed her a second card, identical to the first. Keep one here. Keep one with you. Always. She took it, the cardstock smooth between her fingers. And Anna? Casper moved toward the door. Thank you, again, for seeing what no one else did. Then he was gone, leaving her standing in her small apartment, holding a phone number that felt like both a promise and a warning. 3 days passed like held breath. Anna went to work, smiled at customers, refilled water glasses, recited specials with the same practiced ease she always had. But now, every time the back door opened, her pulse quickened. Every time a car idled too long outside the restaurant, her eyes tracked it. The man Casper had posted outside her apartment building, she'd learned his name was Griffin, nodded to her each morning as she left for her shift. He didn't speak much, but his presence was constant, reassuring in a way that also reminded her how much danger she might actually be in. On the 4th day, Casper called. The SUV was registered to a shell company, he said without preamble. Traced back to a shipping operation on the East Docks. Imports, mostly legitimate, except for the containers that aren't. Anna switched the phone to her other ear, glancing around her empty apartment. What does that mean? It means I know who ordered the hit. His voice carried a cold satisfaction. Rival operation. They've been trying to cut into my territory for 6 months. This was their play. Remove me, create chaos, move in while my people scrambled to reorganize. So it's over? You know who did it? Knowing and proving are different things, and acting too quickly shows my hand. Casper paused. I need them to think their plan is still in motion, that Thomas followed through, that I'm dead. Anna's breath caught. How do you fake that? People saw you leave the restaurant alive. People saw me leave. What happened after is open to interpretation. There was a smile in his voice, dark and calculating. I have resources, Anna. And I'm very good at controlling narratives. She sat on the edge of her couch, processing. What do you need from me? Keep your routine normal. If anyone asks about that night, customers, coworkers, anyone, you tell them I left around 10. You didn't see anything unusual. Understand? I understand. There's something else. Casper's tone shifted. I need you to come somewhere tomorrow. Bring your observations from the alley. Everything you remember that you haven't told me yet. Times, positions, anything. Why? Because my people are good at what they do. But you saw something they didn't. Fresh eyes. Unbiased perspective. He paused. And because I'm starting to think you notice things that trained security misses. Anna's throat tightened. I'm a waitress, not a detective. You're someone who pays attention. In my world, that's more valuable. He gave her an address in a part of the city she'd never been to. 2 o'clock tomorrow. Griffin will bring you. Before she could respond, the line went dead. The building Casper operated from looked like any other commercial property. Gray concrete, small windows, a parking garage underneath. Nothing about it suggested power or danger, or the kind of operations Anna had only seen in movies. Griffin escorted her through a side entrance, past security that nodded them through without question, and into an elevator that required a key card to access certain floors. They stopped on the 5th floor. The hallway was quiet, carpeted, lined with doors that gave no indication of what lay behind them. Griffin knocked twice on the last door on the left, then opened it without waiting for a response. Inside, Casper stood at a large table covered with papers, photographs, and maps. 2 other men flanked him, one younger, laptop open in front of him, the other older with the weathered look of someone who'd spent decades in violent work. Casper glanced up as Anna entered. Thank you for coming. She nodded, suddenly aware of how out of place she looked in her jeans and sweater, surrounded by men in expensive suits discussing things that could end lives. This is Anna Jacobs, Casper said to the others. She's the reason I'm still breathing. To Anna, he gestured toward the table. These are the men helping me dismantle the people who tried to change that. Anna approached slowly, eyes scanning the materials spread before her. Photographs of men she didn't recognize, shipping manifests, financial documents, and in the center, a map of the city with several locations marked in red. We've identified the key players, Casper continued. Christoph Volkov runs the operation. Former Russian military, moved here 8 years ago, built his network slowly, carefully. He tapped a photograph of a hard-faced man with a gold chain visible at his collar. Sound familiar? Anna leaned closer, studying the image. The jawline. The way he held himself even in a still photograph. That's him. The one from the alley. You're certain? Yes. He wore that same chain. I remember seeing it catch the light. The younger man typed something rapidly. Confirms our intel. Volkov's been careful not to leave digital traces, but physical identification from an eyewitness changes things. Casper circled the table, stopping beside Anna. What else do you remember? The other 2 men. Did they have any distinguishing features? Anna closed her eyes, pulling herself back to that night. Cold air, brick wall against her back. Fear making everything sharper, clearer. One of them had a tattoo on his hand, right hand, between thumb and forefinger. Dark ink, but I couldn't see the design clearly. Height? Build? Shorter than Volkov, maybe 5 to 9. Stockier. The third man was taller, thin, moved like he was nervous. The older man looked at Casper. Matches descriptions of 2 of Volkov's regular crew, Pavel and Dmitri. Casper nodded slowly. What about timing? You said 9:15 when you went to the alley? 9:20 maybe. I wasn't checking my watch, but the dinner rush was winding down. That usually happens between 9 and 9:30 on weeknights. And how long were you outside? Anna thought back. 3 minutes? 4? Long enough to hear the entire exchange. See the gun change hands. Watch them leave. Which direction? West, toward the main street. They had a car waiting, the SUV you showed me. It was parked just past the alley entrance. Casper exchanged a look with the younger man, who pulled up something on his laptop. Traffic camera caught a black SUV heading west on Marlow at 9:24 p.m. Matches the timeline. Where did it go? Casper asked. Lost it after 6 blocks. They knew the camera blind spots. Anna watched them work, piecing together fragments of information like a puzzle where every piece mattered. She should have felt frightened, should have wanted to leave, to go back to her simple life of tables and tips and problems she could solve with a smile. Instead, she felt something else. Purpose, maybe, or the strange satisfaction of seeing her observations matter. "Anna," Casper said, drawing her attention back. "I need you to understand something. The information you've given us today? It confirms things we suspected but couldn't prove. It gives us leverage." He moved closer, his voice lowering. "But it also means you're more valuable to me than I anticipated, which means you're more valuable to them if they figure out who you are. I understand." "Do you?" His eyes searched hers. "Because from here, things accelerate. Volkov thinks I'm dead or wounded. He's already moving to consolidate power. Within a week, maybe 2, his operation will overextend. That's when we strike. And until then? Until then you stay visible but protected. You live normally, and you trust that I won't let anything happen to you." Anna met his gaze, seeing something there she hadn't noticed before. Not just determination, responsibility. He'd meant what he said about protecting people who helped him. "I trust you," she said, surprised to find she meant it. Casper's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Good. Because I'm going to need you to trust me even more before this is finished." 11 days after the alley, Christoph Volkov's world began to collapse. It started small. A shipment that never arrived. A warehouse lease that mysteriously terminated. 3 key distributors who suddenly stopped returning calls. To anyone outside the operation, these would seem like bad luck. Random complications in a complicated business. Volkov knew better. He stood in his office overlooking the docks, watching cargo containers stack like building blocks, and felt the creeping certainty that someone was dismantling everything he'd built. The hit on Casper Desmet should have worked. Should have created the chaos he needed to expand into vacant territory. Instead, there'd been silence. No news reports, no police activity, no funeral, no power vacuum. Just nothing. And now, his own infrastructure was failing piece by piece. "Find out what happened to Desmet," he told Pavel, who stood near the door with his tattooed hand clenched at his side. "I want confirmation. Body. Death certificate. Something." "We've been looking," Pavel said carefully. "There's nothing. It's like he disappeared. Men like Casper Desmet don't disappear." Volkov turned from the window. "Either he's dead and someone's hiding it, or he's alive and we're all in trouble." Pavel shifted uncomfortably. "What about the driver? Thomas?" "Gone. Family too. Can't track them." Volkov's jaw tightened, which means someone helped them disappear. Someone with resources. "So Desmet's alive." "Desmet's alive," Volkov confirmed, "and he's coming for us." Anna learned about the unraveling from Casper during one of their increasingly frequent conversations. He'd taken to calling her every few days, ostensibly for updates, to ensure she felt safe, but their talks had evolved into something else, something neither of them quite acknowledged. "Volkov's losing suppliers," Casper told her, his voice carrying satisfaction she'd learned to recognize. 3 major contacts severed in the last week. His distribution network is fracturing. Anna sat curled on her couch, phone pressed to her ear. "How are you doing it?" Carefully, a word in the right ear. Evidence of instability. Questions about Volkov's judgment. He paused. "People don't like working with desperate men. Desperation makes mistakes. Is he dangerous? When he's desperate? More dangerous than when he's confident, yes. Which is why Griffin stays outside your building. Why Marcus watches the restaurant." Casper's tone shifted, becoming more serious. "I need you to stay alert, Anna. Volkov's smart. If he starts asking the right questions, your name might surface." Anna's stomach tightened. What kind of questions? Who was working that night? Who might have seen something? Who had access to me? He let that settle. "You were visible. Professional. Exactly the kind of person who notices details. So what do I do?" "What you've been doing. Nothing changes in your routine. But if anyone approaches you, anyone you don't recognize, anyone asking about that night, you call me immediately. Don't engage. Don't try to handle it yourself." "Okay." Casper was quiet for a moment. "How are you holding up? Really?" The question surprised her. Not because he asked, he always did, but because of the genuine concern underneath it. "I'm okay. It's strange, knowing something big is happening and just going to work." Serving pasta, pretending everything's normal. That's the hardest part, Casper said. Waiting, watching, knowing the storm's coming but not when it'll hit. Anna pulled a blanket tighter around her shoulders. Do you ever get used to it? No, you just get better at functioning through it. He exhaled slowly. But you shouldn't have to get used to it. This isn't your world. It is now. Only temporarily. Once this is finished, Anna interrupted, I'll still be the woman who saved your life. That doesn't just go away. Casper didn't respond immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter. No, I suppose it doesn't. The end came swiftly. 2 weeks after the attempted assassination, Volkov's remaining lieutenants turned on him. Not through violence, Casper's way was subtler than that. They simply stopped following orders, stopped answering calls, stopped pretending loyalty they no longer felt. The financial accounts Volkov had built over years suddenly became inaccessible. Passwords changed, offshore connections severed. He was left with a crumbling empire, and the realization that whoever had orchestrated this had done it with surgical precision. On a Wednesday morning, Volkov received a message. No threats, no demands, just an address and a time. He went, because what choice did he have? The warehouse was empty except for Casper Desmet, standing in a shaft of sunlight that made him look almost ethereal, untouchable, very much alive. You should be dead, Volkov said, his accent thicker with stress. I should be, Casper agreed. Your plan was good, thorough. Using my own driver showed creativity. He stepped forward, hands in his pockets, completely relaxed. But you made one mistake. What mistake? You underestimated the people around me. Assumed they were just employees, just tools. Casper's eyes hardened. One of those tools had a conscience. Another had sharp eyes. Together they saved my life. Volkov's face darkened with understanding. The driver talked. The driver was terrified, threatened, forced to make an impossible choice. Casper stopped 5 feet away. I don't punish people for being afraid. I punish people for ambition that costs me time and peace. So what now? You kill me? No. Casper's smile was cold. I do something worse. I leave you alive with nothing. No organization, no money, no reputation. You'll live knowing that you tried to take what was mine and failed so completely that even your own people abandoned you. He gestured toward the warehouse exit. There's a car outside. It'll take you to the airport. You have a ticket to Prague. One way. Take it. Disappear. Start over somewhere I'll never have to think about you again. And if I refuse? Then you won't make it to the car. Casper's expression didn't change. But I don't think you'll refuse. Survival is instinctive, even for men like you. Volkov stood frozen, weighing options that didn't exist. Finally, he turned toward the exit, shoulders slumped in defeat. Christov, Casper called. Volkov looked back. If I ever hear your name again, if you ever try to return, to rebuild, to take revenge, there won't be a conversation. There won't be mercy. There will just be an ending. Understand? Volkov nodded once, then walked out into the morning light. That evening, Casper called Anna. It's done, he said simply. Anna released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. He's gone? He's gone. His operation is dismantled. The people who helped him are scattered. Casper paused. You're safe now. Truly safe. Anna sat in her small apartment, Griffin's familiar presence outside her door, and felt something release in her chest. What about Thomas? His family? Relocated. New city. New life. They're fine. Another pause. I kept my word. Thank you. I should be thanking you. Casper's voice softened. Everything that happened, everything that didn't happen, started with you noticing what no one else did. Anna smiled despite herself. I just took out the trash. You did more than that. Much more. He was quiet for a moment. I'd like to see you. Tomorrow, if you're available. Not for business, just to talk. Anna's heart beat a little faster. Okay, where? The restaurant. Where it all started. Anna arrived at the restaurant 20 minutes before her shift was supposed to start. But Casper was already there. He sat at the same corner table where this had all begun, coat draped over the chair beside him, a cup of coffee cooling in front of him. The late afternoon sun slanted through the windows, catching the edges of his profile in gold. When he saw her, he stood not with the controlled authority she'd grown accustomed to, but with something softer. Anticipation, maybe. Thank you for coming early, he said as she approached. You asked. Anna slid into the seat across from him, suddenly aware of how different this felt. No emergency, no threat. Just two people sitting in a restaurant where one of them happened to work. Casper gestured to the server Miguel, who'd worked the same shift as Anna for 2 years. "Whatever she wants, and bring us some privacy." Miguel nodded, retreating with the discretion of someone who'd learned not to ask questions. "You don't have to buy me dinner," Anna said. "I eat here for free anyway." "I know, but let me do this." Casper's expression carried something she hadn't seen before. Vulnerability, perhaps. Or the simple desire to do something normal. These past few weeks, every conversation we've had has been about danger. Threats. Survival. I'd like one that isn't. Anna studied him across the table. The sharp lines of his face had softened somehow, or maybe she was just seeing him differently now. Not as the dangerous man everyone whispered about, but as someone who carried weight she was only beginning to understand. "Okay," she said quietly. "What do you want to talk about?" Casper smiled a real smile, not the cold calculation she'd seen him use like a weapon. "Tell me about you. The parts that have nothing to do with taking out trash or saving lives." So she did. Anna told him about growing up in a smaller city 3 hours north. About the brother who'd gone to college on a scholarship, while she'd stayed behind to help their mother through cancer treatments. About the decision to move here afterward, looking for something bigger than the town that had felt too small after everything. "My brother finished his degree," she said, tracing the rim of her water glass. "Engineering. He's doing well. Sends money when he can, even though I tell him not to." "You helped him get there." "Someone had to." Anna shrugged. "Mom couldn't work during treatment. I was already out of school. It made sense." "Did you want to go to college?" The question hung between them, honest and direct. "I don't know," Anna admitted. "I thought about it. But by the time I could have gone, I was working here, making decent money, building a life. College started to feel like something for other people." Casper leaned back, coffee forgotten. "It's not too late, if you wanted to. Maybe." She met his eyes. "But I'm not unhappy. I know it probably looks small to you, this job, this life, but it's mine. I built it. That matters." "It does," Casper said, and she could hear that he meant it. "More than you know." Their food arrived, Miguel, placing plates in front of them with quiet efficiency before disappearing again. Anna had ordered without thinking, muscle memory from years of knowing the menu. Casper had chosen something simple, elegant. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the restaurant filling around them with the early dinner crowd. Anna watched him cut his food with precise movements, everything controlled, even here. But she noticed other things too. The way his shoulders relaxed when he thought no one was watching. The faint lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled more than his reputation implied. "What about you?" Anna asked. "How does someone become this?" Casper set down his fork. "You mean how does someone become the man people threaten to kill?" "I mean how does someone build what you've built, run what you run?" She paused. "Live the way you live." He was quiet for a long moment, weighing how much to tell her. "My father ran this city's docks 30 years ago, not legally, but effectively. I grew up understanding that power isn't always visible. Sometimes it's quiet, careful." He picked up his water glass. "When he died, I was 23, too young, too inexperienced. Everyone expected me to fail, but you didn't." "No. I learned quickly that survival requires 2 things, knowing who to trust and accepting that control is temporary." His eyes found hers. "I built something more stable than what my father had. More legitimate, in most ways. But that stability comes with a price, people trying to take it. Always." Casper's expression darkened slightly. "Volkov wasn't the first, won't be the last. There's always someone who thinks they can do it better. Take what's yours. Build their empire on your ruins." Anna set down her fork, no longer hungry. "Doesn't that exhaust you, constantly watching for the next threat?" "Yes," the honesty in his voice surprised her. "But I don't know how to be anything else. This is what I know, what I'm good at." "You're good at other things too." Casper raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" "Listening, protecting people who help you, keeping promises." Anna leaned forward slightly. "Not punishing a terrified driver when you could have. Giving him and his family a second chance. That's not just control. That's compassion." Something shifted in Casper's expression, a crack in the armor he wore so carefully. "Most people don't see it that way. Most people don't see you the way I do." The words settled between them, heavier than Anna had intended. but she didn't take them back. Casper held her gaze, and in that moment, the restaurant seemed to fade. The other diners, the soft music, the clatter of dishes, all of it became background noise to the understanding passing between them. "Anna," he said quietly, "you should know something." "What?" "These past few weeks, talking to you, making sure you were safe, it stopped being just about protection." He leaned forward, forearms on the table. "It became about wanting to hear your voice, wanting to know you were okay, not because I owed you, but because I cared." Anna's breath caught. "Casper, I'm not asking for anything," he continued. "I know our worlds are different. I know I brought danger into your life that you never asked for. But I needed you to know that you changed something for me, made me remember that there are people worth protecting for reasons beyond strategy or obligation." Anna reached across the table, her hand covering his. His skin was warm, solid, real. "You changed something for me too. Made me realize I'm capable of more than I thought. That I can trust my instincts even when they lead me into dangerous places." Casper turned his hand over, fingers intertwining with hers. "Where does that leave us?" "I don't know." Anna smiled, feeling the truth of it. "But I'm not afraid to find out." They sat like that, hands joined across the table, while the restaurant moved around them. Two people from different worlds who'd collided in a moment of crisis and discovered something neither had expected. Not romance exactly. Not yet, but possibility. And for now, that was enough. Later, after Casper had left and Anna's shift had begun, Miguel approached her at the service station. "That man," he said carefully. "He's important, isn't he?" Anna looked toward the empty corner table. "Yes. Is he good to you?" She thought about the past weeks, the protection, the conversations, the way Casper had dismantled an empire to keep her safe. "Yes, he's good to me." Miguel nodded slowly. "Then I'm glad. You deserve someone who sees you." Anna smiled, tucking Casper's card, now worn from being carried back, into her pocket. "I think he does." Anna dreamed about the alley. Not every night, but often enough that she'd started recognizing the pattern, the cold brick against her back, the voices pressing through darkness. The moment the gun changed hands, metal catching light, and her breath stopping in her throat. In the dreams, she never warned Casper. She just stood there, frozen, watching him walk to the car, watching the door close, watching the sedan pull away into traffic. Then she'd wake, heart pounding, reaching for her phone, to confirm he was still alive. It was 3 a.m. when she finally gave up on sleep and made tea instead. The apartment was quiet, except for the occasional sound of traffic outside. Griffin had been replaced by someone named Torres. Casper rotated his security, he'd explained, to keep patterns unpredictable, but the presence was the same. Constant. Protective. Her phone buzzed. A message from Casper. "You're awake." Anna stared at the screen, then typed back. "How do you know?" "Your light's on." Torres mentioned it. She moved to the window, peering down at the street. The car sat in its usual spot, dark and unremarkable. She couldn't see inside, but she knew Torres was watching. Her phone rang. "You should be sleeping," Casper said when she answered. "So should you. I don't sleep much." His voice sounded different in the middle of the night, less controlled, more human. "Bad dreams?" Anna carried her tea to the couch, curling into the corner. "How did you know?" "Because I have them too. Different scenarios. Same theme." He paused. "What happens if I don't notice? Don't react fast enough. Don't survive. But you did survive. Because of you." The weight in those words settled between them. "Anna, I've been thinking about that night, about how close it came, about what would have happened if you'd been on a different schedule, if the trash had been taken out earlier, if you'd chosen not to say anything." "Don't," she said quietly. "Don't think about the what-ifs. I can't help it. My entire life is built on reading situations, predicting outcomes, staying 3 steps ahead. And I didn't see this coming. Didn't suspect Thomas. Didn't notice my routine had become predictable enough to exploit." His frustration bled through. "A waitress saw what trained security missed. I got lucky. I was in the right place at the right time." "It wasn't luck. It was awareness. Instinct." Casper's voice softened. "You trusted yourself enough to act on what you saw. Most people wouldn't have. They'd have convinced themselves it wasn't their business, that they'd misunderstood, that speaking up would cause more problems than staying silent." Anna sipped her tea, thinking about that moment. The decision that had taken maybe 3 seconds but changed everything. I was terrified. I know. I thought you might not believe me, that I'd look crazy, paranoid, that your security would remove me and I'd lose my job, but you spoke anyway. Because not speaking felt worse. She set down her cup. Because watching you die when I could have prevented it, I couldn't live with that. Casper was quiet for so long she thought the connection had dropped. Then, I need to show you something. Can Torres bring you somewhere? Anna glanced at the clock. 3:17 in the morning. Now? Now. If you're willing. She should have said no. Should have asked questions, demanded explanations. Instead, she found herself saying, "Give me 10 minutes to change." The car drove for 20 minutes, leaving the city center and heading toward industrial areas Anna rarely visited. Torres said nothing, following GPS directions with professional efficiency. They pulled up to a warehouse that looked abandoned, windows dark, parking lot empty, except for one vehicle she recognized, Casper's car. Torres opened her door. "He's inside. I'll be here." Anna walked to the entrance, finding it unlocked. Inside, motion sensor lights flickered on, illuminating a vast open space that had been converted into something between a gym and a dojo. Training mats covered the floor. Equipment lined the walls. And in the center, Casper stood in a t-shirt and dark pants, looking more unguarded than she'd ever seen him. "What is this place?" Anna asked, her voice echoing. "Where I come when I can't sleep, when the thoughts get too loud." He gestured around. Physical exhaustion is easier to manage than mental noise. She approached slowly, noticing the heavy bag in the corner, the wraps around his knuckles. "How often do you come here?" "More than I should, less than I need to." Casper moved to a bench against the wall, sitting with his forearms on his knees. "I brought you here because I wanted you to see something real. Not the version of me that sits in restaurants or makes business decisions. The version that exists at 3 in the morning when control slips." Anna sat beside him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his recent exertion. "Why?" "Because you've been honest with me about your fears, your dreams, the way that night affected you." He turned to face her. "I wanted to be honest back, to show you that I'm not immune to it either. That survival doesn't mean unscathed." She studied his profile, the sharp lines softened by exhaustion, the carefully maintained composure cracking just enough to show the person beneath. "You blame yourself for not seeing it coming. I should have. You're not omniscient, Casper. You're just human." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "People in my position can't afford to be just human. Human makes mistakes. Human gets killed. Human also gets saved by waitresses who take out the trash." Anna reached for his hand, feeling the rough texture of the hand wraps. "You survived because I warned you, yes. But also because you listened. Because you trusted someone you had no reason to trust. That's not weakness. That's wisdom." Casper's fingers tightened around hers. "I've spent 15 years building walls, maintaining distance, trusting only people I've vetted through years of loyalty tests." He met her eyes. "And then you appeared, and everything I thought I knew about trust became irrelevant." "What do you mean?" "I mean I trusted you immediately, completely, without hesitation or doubt." His voice dropped lower. "That terrifies me more than the assassination attempt." Anna's breath caught. "Why?" "Because caring about someone makes you vulnerable. Gives your enemies leverage. Creates weak points in armor you've spent years perfecting." He lifted their joined hands, studying them like a puzzle he couldn't solve. "And I can't seem to stop caring about you, no matter how many logical arguments I make." The words hung between them, raw and honest and impossible to take back. Anna leaned closer, their shoulders touching. "I'm scared too. Of this, of what it means, of how different our lives are. We don't have to figure it out tonight." "No." She rested her head against his shoulder, feeling him tense briefly before relaxing. "But we should probably stop pretending it's just gratitude or circumstance." Casper's arm came around her shoulders, careful, tentative. "What is it then?" Anna closed her eyes, breathing in sandalwood and sweat, and something uniquely him. "I don't know yet. But it's real. And it matters." They sat like that in the empty warehouse, exhaustion and honesty stripping away pretense, while city lights filtered through high windows and created shadows that danced across training mats. Outside, Torres waited patiently. Above them, the night slowly surrendered to dawn. And between them, something fragile and important took shape. Not romance exactly, not yet, but connection, understanding. The beginning of something neither had planned for, but both were too tired to resist. "Thank you," Casper said finally. "For coming, for listening, for not running when most people would have." Anna smiled against his shoulder. "Where would I run to? You've got security following me." He laughed, a real laugh this time, surprised out of him. "I could call them off." "Don't." She lifted her head, meeting his eyes. "I like knowing you care enough to protect me, even if it's terrifying and complicated and completely disrupts my normal life." "Is that what I've done? Disrupted your normal life?" "Completely." Anna stood, pulling him up with her. "And somehow, I don't hate it." Casper held her hand a moment longer than necessary before releasing it. "I should get you home. You have a shift in 6 hours. So do you, probably. Important meetings, Empire maintenance, something like that." He walked her to the door, flipping off lights as they went. "Anna?" She turned. "The dreams, they'll get better, eventually." "How do you know?" "Because you're not alone in them anymore." His expression softened. "Neither am I." The restaurant felt different now. Anna couldn't pinpoint exactly what had changed. The layout was the same. The menu hadn't been updated. The same customers requested the same tables, but something fundamental had shifted. Maybe it was her. Maybe awareness, once gained, couldn't be unlearned. She noticed things she'd overlooked for years. The way certain patrons received preferential treatment without asking. The private dining rooms that were always reserved but rarely used. The deliveries that came through the back entrance at odd hours. Signed for by management without inspection. The restaurant existed in multiple worlds simultaneously, serving expensive pasta to anniversary couples while quietly facilitating the business of people like Casper. People whose power operated below the surface, invisible until you knew what to look for. Anna was clearing table 6 when Casper arrived. Early afternoon, between lunch and dinner, when the dining room sat mostly empty, he chose a different table this time near the window, where sunlight illuminated the careful distance he usually maintained from the world. She approached with water and a menu, professional despite the way her pulse quickened. "Good afternoon, Anna." His voice carried warmth reserved for private conversations. "Do you have a few minutes?" She glanced toward the kitchen. Miguel waved her off, taking over her remaining tables. "I suppose I do." Casper gestured to the seat across from him. When she sat, he slid a folder across the table, plain manila, unsealed, containing papers she couldn't see without opening it. "What is this?" "Options." He leaned back, giving her space to process. "I've spent the past few days thinking about what comes next. For you, for us, for how this arrangement continues." Anna's stomach tightened. "Arrangement sounds clinical." "Poor word choice," he acknowledged with a slight smile. "This connection, this situation, whatever we're calling it." She opened the folder carefully. Inside she found documents, financial statements, property deeds, educational program information. Her name appeared on several pages, alongside numbers that made her breath catch. "Casper, what?" "The first option is compensation," he said evenly, "for saving my life, for enduring weeks of protection details and disrupted routines, for taking a risk that could have cost you everything." He pointed to the top document. "That's a reasonable sum based on the value you provided." Anna stared at the number. More money than she'd make in 5 years of waiting tables. Maybe 10. "The second option," Casper continued, pointing to another page, "is education. Full tuition to any program you choose. Business, liberal arts, whatever interests you. No strings attached." "I don't." "The third option is employment. I have legitimate business operations that need people with your observational skills. Security consulting, operations management, personnel assessment." He met her eyes. "You're wasted serving tables, Anna. You see things others miss. That's valuable." She closed the folder slowly, processing. "And if I don't want any of these options, then you choose none of them. Keep working here. Keep living your life. I respect whatever decision you make." Casper's expression softened. "But I needed to offer. Needed you to know that I value what you did. What you gave up for a stranger's safety." Anna pushed the folder back toward him. "I don't want your money, Anna. I don't want compensation for doing the right thing, for acting on basic human decency." She leaned forward, voice firm. "If you pay me, it becomes a transaction. It reduces what happened to economics. And that's not what it was." Casper studied her for a long moment. "Then what was it?" It was a choice, made freely, without expectation of reward. Anna held his gaze, and it led to something I didn't anticipate. This. Us. Whatever we're becoming. You can't pay for that. Shouldn't try to. He withdrew the folder slowly. Most people would take the money. I'm not most people. No. Casper's voice carried something like awe. You're really not. They sat in silence for a moment, the afternoon sun casting geometric patterns across their table. Other diners filtered in gradually, the restaurant waking from its midday lull. There is something I want, Anna said finally. Name it. Honesty. About what you do. About what it means to be in your world. She met his eyes. If we're going to keep doing this, whatever this is, I need to understand it. Not the sanitized version, the real one. Casper's jaw tightened slightly. That world isn't kind, Anna. It's not romantic or exciting. It's calculating and cold, and sometimes cruel. I know. I've seen the edges of it. She reached across the table, hand palm up. But I can't navigate something I don't understand. Can't make informed choices about where this goes if I'm operating on assumptions. He placed his hand in hers. If I show you, you can't unsee it. I couldn't unsee the alley either. Didn't stop me from acting. Casper's fingers tightened around hers. All right, but we do this carefully, gradually. And the moment you want out, you say so. No judgment, no consequences. Agreed. He lifted their joined hands, studying them thoughtfully. You're changing me, you know. Making me question things I've accepted for years. Like what? Like whether power requires isolation. Whether trust is always a liability. Whether someone from outside this world can understand it without being consumed by it. He lowered their hands but didn't release hers. You're an experiment, Anna Jacobs. The question I'm trying to answer. And what question is that? Casper's expression turned serious, vulnerable in ways she'd only glimpsed before. Whether someone like me deserves someone like you. Anna's throat tightened. That's not a question you should be asking. Why not? Because it assumes you're something less than human. That your choices have erased your capacity for connection. She squeezed his hand. You've made decisions I probably couldn't make. Done things I might not agree with. But you've also protected people. Kept promises. Shown compassion when you could have chosen cruelty. That doesn't balance the scales. Maybe not. But it means you're more than the worst things you've done. Anna smiled softly. Just like I'm more than a waitress who took out the trash at the right moment. Casper stood, pulling her up with him. They stood close in the empty space between tables, afternoon light creating a private world within the public restaurant. I need you to understand something, he said quietly. The people I've removed, the operations I've dismantled, the choices I make, they have consequences. Real ones, for real people. I know, and you're still here. I'm still here. Anna held his gaze. Not because I'm naive about what you do, but because I see the whole person. The careful man who listened to a warning, the strategic mind that protected a frightened driver. The person who comes to warehouses at 3 a.m, because control has limits. Casper's hand came up slowly, carefully, cupping her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything else about him. I don't know how this ends. Neither do I. Anna leaned into his touch. But I'm tired of pretending it's not happening. He kissed her, then soft, tentative, like someone learning a language they'd never thought they'd need. Anna's hands found his shoulders, steadying herself against the rush of everything this meant. When they pulled apart, Casper rested his forehead against hers. This complicates things. Everything was already complicated. Fair point. He stepped back reluctantly as other diners glanced their way. I should go. You have a shift to finish. Casper. She caught his hand. Thank you, for the options, for respecting my choice, for being honest. Thank you for seeing me clearly and staying anyway. He brought her hand to his lips briefly. Dinner tomorrow? Somewhere that isn't here? I'd like that. He left through the front entrance, coat over one arm, moving with his usual controlled grace. But Anna saw the difference now. The slight softening in his shoulders, the almost smile he tried to suppress. Miguel appeared beside her. That man is falling for you. Anna watched Casper's car pull away. I think I'm falling for him too. Is that wise? Probably not. She picked up the folder he'd left behind despite her refusal. But wisdom isn't always the point. Anna stood in the alley behind the restaurant, trash bag in hand, breathing cold February air. 2 months had passed since the night that changed everything. 2 months of careful integration into Casper's world, not as an insider, but as someone who understood the edges, who asked questions, who listened without judgment, but maintained her own moral compass. It hadn't been easy. There were conversations that challenged her assumptions, decisions Casper made that she disagreed with, moments when the gulf between their experiences felt impossible to bridge. But there were other moments too. Quiet dinners where they talked about nothing important, late-night phone calls that lasted until dawn, the gradual realization that connection didn't require identical worldviews, just mutual respect and willingness to understand. The back door opened. Casper emerged, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him in weeks. "You're here," she said, smiling. "You asked me to meet you in the place where it all started." He approached slowly, hands in pockets. Seemed appropriate. Anna set down the trash bag, no longer needing the pretense. "I've been thinking about that night, about the choice I made, about how many tiny factors had to align perfectly for me to be here at the right moment." "Fate?" Casper asked, skepticism in his voice. "Maybe. Or maybe just probability playing out across millions of moments." She moved closer to him. "But I realized something important. It wasn't just luck. It was awareness, willingness to trust my instincts even when they led somewhere scary." "Where are you going with this?" Anna reached into her apron pocket, pulling out a small envelope. "I'm giving notice at the restaurant. 2 weeks." Casper's expression shifted to concern. "Anna, if this is about the money I offered..." "It's not. I still don't want your money. Don't want a job in your organization." She handed him the envelope. "Open it." He did, carefully, revealing an acceptance letter. "University admission. Business program. Starting in the fall semester." "You applied," he said softly, something like pride in his voice. "I applied. Used my own savings for the application fee. Wrote my own essay. Got accepted on my own merits." Anna took the letter back, holding it carefully. "But you were right about one thing. I was wasting my potential serving tables. Not because service work is beneath me, but because I stopped challenging myself, stopped believing I deserved more." Casper pulled her close, arms wrapping around her shoulders. "I'm proud of you, and I had nothing to do with this." "You had everything to do with it." Anna pressed her face against his chest. "You saw something in me I'd stopped seeing in myself. Reminded me that awareness and instinct have value. That one moment of courage can change everything." They stood like that in the alley where it all began, while delivery trucks rumbled past and kitchen noise filtered through the door, and the city moved around them with indifferent momentum. "So what happens now?" Casper asked finally. "You go to school, build a different life. Where does that leave us?" Anna pulled back enough to see his face. "That depends. Can you handle being with someone who has her own ambitions? Her own goals that don't revolve around your world? Can you handle being with someone whose world involves things you might never fully agree with?" "I think we've been figuring that out for 2 months now." She smiled. "And we're still here, still choosing each other despite the complications." Casper cupped her face gently. "I love you. I didn't plan to, didn't expect to. But somewhere between warnings about guns and conversations at 3 a.m, it happened." Anna's breath caught. "I love you too. The whole complicated, dangerous, surprisingly tender version of you." He kissed her there in the alley, deeper than before, with the certainty of someone who'd stopped fighting what they felt. When they finally separated, both breathless, Casper rested his forehead against hers. "We're going to face challenges. People who question this relationship. Situations that test whether we can make this work." "I know. But I want to try. Want to figure out how your world and mine can coexist without one consuming the other." Anna nodded. "We take it slow. Stay honest. Respect boundaries. And keep choosing each other even when it's hard." "Deal." Casper stepped back, though his hand found hers immediately. "Come on. Let's get out of this alley. I know a place that makes better coffee than the restaurant. Lead the way." They walked toward his car together, fingers intertwined, while Anna's mind catalogued this moment the same way she'd catalogued that first night. The temperature, the light, the feeling of something ending and something else beginning. Griffin waited by the car, opening the door for them both. He nodded to Anna with something like approval. As they drove away from the restaurant, Anna looked back at the alley one final time. The place where she'd seen something wrong and chosen to speak. The moment that had cascaded into everything else. "No regrets?" Casper asked, watching her reflection in the window. "Not one." She turned to face him. "I took out the trash and saved your life. found love in the space between danger and ordinary moments, learned that courage doesn't require certainty, just willingness to act. Casper lifted her hand to his lips. The woman who spoke changed everything with a whisper. Just a waitress adjusting a coat. No. His eyes held hers with absolute certainty. Never just anything. You're the person who saw what others missed, who trusted her instincts, who proved that power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's quiet, observant, and brave enough to intervene. Anna settled against his shoulder, watching the city pass outside the window. Somewhere ahead, fall semester waited, new challenges, different paths, but also possibility, growth, the chance to build something that honored both who she'd been and who she was becoming. Behind them, the restaurant grew smaller in the distance. The alley where it all began disappeared from view. But the choice Anna had made that night, the moment she'd decided survival mattered more than silence, continued, rippling forward, shaping everything that came after. Sometimes, salvation begins with noticing what others overlook. Sometimes, love grows in the space between warning and trust. And sometimes, the most important thing you can do is simply speak when staying silent would be easier. Anna had spoken. And in doing so, she'd saved more than just one life. She'd saved the possibility of two people finding each other across impossible distances and choosing, against all logic and wisdom, to try. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Thanks for staying with this story right till the final moment. You're the reason these stories come alive. If you're ready for another powerful journey, just tap the next video on your screen. And before you go, leave a quick comment and rate this story from 1 to 10. I'm excited to see your thoughts and connect with you down there.